Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of The Lindsey Elmore Show. First up, I interview Colin McIntosh. He is the CEO of Sheets and Giggles, a sustainable bedding company. But we don't really talk as much about sleep as we do about politics. So after that, I am going to share some tips for talking to people who have different political views than your own. Welcome to The Lindsey Elmore Show, a podcast that helps you find fulfillment amidst chaos. On this show, I interview thought leaders, doctors, creatives, spiritual gurus, and game changers who inspire you to pursue your dreams, overcome obstacles, and leave your mark. Colin McIntosh is the founder and CEO of Sheets and Giggles. Sheets and Giggles is a sustainable bedding brand based in Denver, Colorado, and the company is famous for their naturally cooling eucalyptus lyocell sheets and comforters. Colin started Sheets and Giggles 3 years ago when he was suddenly laid off from work on a Monday afternoon. Sheets and Giggles has since gone on to become an award-winning company, has saved countless gallons of water compared to the manufacturing that it takes to create cotton sheets. They have planted tens of thousands of trees, one tree planted for every single order that they received, and they have popularized eucalyptus sheets across the United States. Sheets and Giggles was also recently recognized by Amazon as one of the 6 small businesses making a difference during the COVID-19 pandemic. They have donated $40,000 to COVID relief in their home state of Colorado and donated hundreds of sets of sheets to local homeless shelters. Colin McIntosh, welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show.
Thanks so much for having me on. Super excited to be here, and thanks for letting Harvey crash the interview. He's my best friend and company mascot.
So for everybody who is listening is just listening to audio, we have a cute dog and a cute cat in this interview, and so if things go awry, you'll know what happened. It is all a byproduct of just taking excellent care of our animals.
I forgot you had a cat for a second, and I was like, she just called me a cute cat? I was like, that's a nice way to open up the interview. And I was like, oh, that's right, she's got a cat in the background. So yeah, so as long as they don't interact, we'll be good.
One of the things I love about your company is you run a bedding company, sheets and sleep accessories, and you guys got jokes. You got jokes for days. And so tell us how this all started. You decided to start a bedding company and to infuse it with just puns all over the place. Why did you do that? Why?
So we say we're more than just a pun, although we are an admittedly good one. In terms of the why, it's actually interesting. I was working at a wearable tech startup for a few years that I helped co-found with my friends. And, this is in the mid 2010s, and we had raised a few $1 million. We had hired a bunch of people in downtown Denver. And we were in Target and Brookstone and HSN and QVC and a bunch of other different places, and we were doing really well. But unfortunately, we had to lay everybody off at 1 p.m. on a Monday. Actually, it'll be 3 years to the day this Friday that I got laid off, September 25th. I remember just the emotions of that day, 1 p.m., losing your paycheck, your health care, and that emotionality of like having put so much of your life into something and then seeing it kind of come to an end so briefly. So that was like a very emotional trigger for me. And I basically decided I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to start my own company, or I'm going to forget the startup life and I'm going to go work at Amazon or Microsoft or somewhere back in Seattle where I moved to Denver from. And I just decided to start my own company. And there were a few different criteria that I really wanted to do. And so truth be told, the main thing for me was that I really wanted a business model that I felt was long-term, sustainable, profitable, and that I could be proud of. And so I basically, and this is a true story, I sat down and I wrote out my perfect business model. And I said, first and foremost, I want a physical good that is sustainable, because I don't want to do anything that's not sustainable. I want something that I can be proud of my work. I want something that's in a massive commodities market, so I don't have to build this brand new market category out of nowhere. I want something that's highly fragmented, so no market leader that I have to chip away at and steal market share from. And then I wanted something that, truth be told, had a very flat, boring brand space so I could zig where everybody else was zagging. And this is a true story. It's an absurd story. I looked at all the domains that I owned, and I owned sheetsgiggles.com because I thought it'd be a funny name for a bed sheets company. And I thought, does bedding fit my criteria? Because a brand name is so powerful. And I was so obsessed with the Sheets and Giggles brand name. And it was perfect. $12 billion US market, growing 10% year over year. No good sustainable options. Everything was cotton or polyester that I found. And so I was kind of off to the races. And the biggest piece to me that clinched it was this brand space is so boring and so flat. And so it's really like a blank canvas for me creatively to do whatever me and my team find funny. And that tightrope of sustainable sheets, which our sheets are made from eucalyptus lyocell, use way less water, energy, no insecticides, no pesticides versus cotton. And, you know, the combination of sustainable, premium, and funny was like a really hard tightrope to walk. And that's why it was so interesting for me.
So we've talked on the podcast with Molly McLaughlin, who is a sleep expert, about how critical sleep is to our overall health. And I feel like a lot of people are woke to the concept that you're sleeping on a toxic mattress. And you look at bedding and it's just coated in flame retardants. And as you mentioned, most of the options out there are either cotton or polyester
is the big one, yeah.
Which polyester doesn't breathe, and so you're not sleeping well. So tell us why you landed on eucalyptus lyocell and why you think it is a better option for the planet and a better option for a person who's sleeping on the sheets.
So I appreciate you giving me the opening to shamelessly plug the product, because it's fantastic. So basically there's a few things that are major differentiators between eucalyptus lyocell and something more traditional like a cotton and something more synthetic like a polyester. So basically what our product is, it's something called cellulosic rayon. So it's rayon fabric made from plants, cellulose. And the plant that we use is eucalyptus in order to make the lyocell, which is what our sheets are made out of. There's a few major benefits. It's going to literally be softer than cotton, has a lower coefficient of friction, so it'll be smoother, won't pull your hair, won't abrade your skin. We actually have people with fibromyalgia, neuropathy, eczema, contact dermatitis, and other ailments that tell us that our sheets are the only thing that actually help them sleep through the night. And that's a really wonderful thing that I never actually anticipated, because I have a herniated C4, C5, and I've actually woken up in the middle of my sleep cycles before I even hit my first REM cycle at 3 or 4 hours. And when you're constantly waking up or tossing and turning in the middle of the night, and you have that REM interrupted, like your guest Molly has told you about, your body cannot heal, it cannot grow. And it's almost like a torturous cycle. And I've had months at a time where I haven't been able to get through 1 or 2 hours of continuous sleep. And it's really akin to torture. And so that to me is a very personal thing. And I love it when people with nerve conditions and chronic conditions reach out to us and let us know that our sheets are the only thing that don't irritate their skin at night. Secondly, they are dermatologist recommended. And one of the reasons they're dermatologist recommended, our sheets is because they actually are extremely dry. And what I mean by that is they will keep you at a cool and dry temperature throughout the night, which is ideal for getting through your REM cycles. And they have incredible moisture management. So because they are technically man-made, right? Plant doesn't grow in the ground as a fiber like cotton.
Sure.
They actually have a perfectly round filament. And so whereas cotton has sort of, if you look at it under a microscope, it has more of a wavy filament. It doesn't manage and spread and absorb moisture as well as our lyocell does. So that's why a lot of times people will wake up in a pool of sweat, especially with polyester, because like you said, I mean, you're just sleeping in a sheet of plastic at that point. But with cotton as well, you wake up in a pool of sweat because it doesn't evenly distribute the moisture across the sheeting. Whereas with our lyocell, that filament is so perfectly cylindrical that it will actually almost evenly spread out that moisture across the entire fitted and flat sheet when it absorbs sweat from you. And then it evaporates it a lot more quickly as well because of that even distribution. And so what ends up happening is, there's actually been studies done, if you introduce, like, for example, a population of dust mites into our sheets, they will actually, half of them will die within about a 6-week period. Because there's just not enough moisture to reproduce and to grow. And the same principle applies for bacteria as well. Whereas cotton, they'll actually, I think they'll like 40 times multiply or something. I can't remember what the exact numbers in the study were, but they'll just, continue growing because cotton has this moisture rich environment from your sweat from your body. So those are a few of the main benefits. And then, additionally, they're hypoallergenic. They're obviously OKO-Tech certified, which means they're harmless without exception. And they're zero static too, which is a really nice benefit for me, because every time I used to have polyester sheets when I was a young idiot. And I would pull them out of the dryer, and you shock yourself, and then you put them on your bed, and then I always say it's like slipping into a sweaty, staticky tomb. So that's not polyester. No. And so the eucalyptus lyocell is just the best thing that I've ever slept on. It's why I became obsessed with it. We have a 4.5-star rating on Amazon with 800 reviews. And then on our website, we have over, I think, 4,000 reviews now, 4,000. And we have a 4.8-star rating on our website. And that's really important to me that those match up, because pro tip, slightly tangential to the audience, if you're buying things online and a company's Facebook, website, and Amazon reviews don't match up, it's probably because they're doing something funky on their website.
They've manipulated one of them.
Yes.
And that is very, very intriguing to think about, that simply changing the sheets that you're sleeping on could help to relieve pain and help people not only to sleep better, but maybe overcome other problems that they're having in their lives. So you are not only dedicated to helping people sleep better, but you're very socially conscious, and you're very much, that's at the forefront. So what are some of the things that other companies do that annoy the crap out of you? And how have you made it a real central marker of the company that you're going to be responsible with the environment and the people that are trusting you enough to spend their money with you?
So I've got four pet peeves that literally just pop as you asked that question, popped in my head, that drives me crazy about other companies. And my golden rule is we treat our customers the way that we want to be treated as human beings and as customers of other companies. So for example, if you email us with a return request, we won't be like, oh yeah, sure. Just go ahead and go to this website, print out this form, then you'll get a return label. We'll reimburse you for it once you ship it in. When it's received, then you'll get your refund. And by the way, it has to be within 14 days, and it's day 15. And sorry, you don't get a refund. That stuff drives me crazy. If somebody emails us, we literally reply with great, your card's been refunded, and attaches a prepaid return label. Drop them off whenever you can. Yeah. And that's it. And it's not hard, and it's actually a lot easier on us. And it might cost us a few extra dollars here and there, and you might get a fraud here and there when somebody's trying to take advantage of the system. But we think that it's, you put good stuff out there and good stuff comes back. So rule number one is treat people the way that you want to be treated as a customer. And so when I think about my 4 pet peeves that pop in my head right there, and hopefully I can remember all 4 after that little mini rant. Number 1 is when I email customer service at a company and they email me back, please check our FAQs for your answer. It's do you think I'm dumb? Do you think that I did not go to your website and check your FAQs? I'm literally opening up my email, typing in a company's email address, sending them something, a specific problem, a specific letter, and they didn't even take the time to read it, because customer service people are expensive, and that stuff drives me crazy. And I think it's a really, really bad branding issue that companies run into. Number 2 is when they don't listen to their customers. So everything we do is all entirely driven by customer feedback. The colors that we do, the products that we came out with our comforters, our throw blankets. We have our eye masks in every box because customers love them. Everything that we do, our extra deep corners on our mattresses, we have 20-inch extra deep corners on our fitted sheets, because people said that one of their frustrations was when they snap their fingernails when they're putting their fitted sheets on, and they're trying to get that last corner over the last bed. I'm getting frustrated just thinking about choosing that last corner over the last bed. And so, number 2 is not listening to customers. Number 3 is the reviews piece. That I can spot fake reviews like that because I'm in the industry, and I think that it's poison to online commerce. And I really can't stand when companies fake the reviews. And more insidious than faking 5-star reviews are when companies will actually hide their 1-star reviews to get that anchor of that review score as high as possible, 4.6, 4.7, when in reality it's actually more like a 3.9. And that's some of our competitors in our industry. If you put it this way, if a company, for everybody out there looking up eucalyptus sheets, there's another company that sells eucalyptus sheets, and they're on Instagram and they advertise a lot, and their website has a 4.8 star rating, which looks great. Their Facebook's a 3.8. So I don't know. Maybe there's something funky going on there. Who knows? And then the fourth thing is on the packaging side. I hate packaging that's like a really big hassle to open up. I hate things that are, very difficult to get into. And I also hate things that are wasteful. So we actually, when we launched in October 2018, when we shipped our first box, it had a plastic lining around the sheets. And it was recyclable. And it was, that was kind of my compromise to make sure there was no water damage. And we got like probably a dozen emails from people just saying, hey, you know what, I'm a little disappointed that you guys use plastic in the packaging, da da da. And so we started shipping some units without it just to test to see if we got damage reports or anything like that. And we didn't. And so rule number 2, we listened to our customers. We pulled the plastic out of the packaging. And now tens of thousands of units have shipped without any plastic in them whatsoever. We're actually the only company on the market that does not vacuum seal our comforter. It comes ready to go in a box, ready to go right on the bed. And yeah, sometimes units get damaged in transit and we have to take that hit and reimburse them or send them a new unit. But it's definitely something that I think has been a net positive. So I can't stand wasteful, very hassle packaging.
Yeah, I agree. I especially agree with your comments about your user experience. If you reach out to me and say, Linz, I want to cancel my subscription to your website, my only response is yes. Great. See you when you come back. Yeah. Let me know. How can we do better? Why are you leaving? What's going on? And so I feel like that people are not in that headspace of like, how do I care for this person as if they were my family? Because ultimately, if you do that, they're never going to buy sheets from anybody else other than you.
I love our customer service team so much. Emily and Melissa are 2 full-timers that run the show. And it's incredible what 2, motivated, well-paid, well taken care of people can do in terms of the amount of volume of tickets that we get, and that we do. One of our golden rules, again, treat people the way we want to be treated. We pick up the phone any time of the day. We can do Facebook messages, Twitter DMs, Instagram DMs. You can text us. You can email us. However people want to get a hold of us is okay with me, and it's okay with our team. And if you control F in our reviews for the words Emily or Melissa or Carl, who jumps in sometimes and assists, or even Colin. I've answered several thousand emails before I hired a customer service team. The things that people say about us as human beings and the people they interact with is incredible. And you can never replicate that type of brand interaction where someone emails you, hey, a simple question, and they get back a very comprehensive, quick response that solves the problem. And so, yeah, I love that customer service that we do. And I think it's a huge part of our brand. And I think that people, as a golden rule, people buy the first time because of the marketing. I think that's true for any product. Like, you see some snappy marketing, you see some good reviews, you give it a shot. The second and third and fourth purchase are all about product and customer service. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And if somebody has a bad product or bad customer service experience, I never go back to that company.
Oh, no, you'll never go back, especially if it's bad customer service. It's like thinking about restaurants. You'll put up with the food not being quite as good as you want it to be if the service...
the service, yeah. And then vice versa too, right? Like, sometimes I've gone to a place that the food is really, really amazing. But if I go to a new place, right, and it's because the reviews are great and they have really nice externals and like the menu looks good, and then either the food is bad or the service is terrible, I won't go back. Yeah. And it's just one of those things I think is, I don't know, sometimes it feels obvious. And I feel like a lot of people out there maybe are nodding their heads like, yeah, I wish every company did that. But I'm blown away by the amount of companies that don't do that. And it starts with the very small things. Like, I see companies who have advertisements on Facebook, and they will have comments where people are like, hey, I'm asking about this. Here's a question that I'm curious about. And they don't respond to the question. And I'm like, this is a person taking the time to write a question on an advertisement. Like, have somebody on your team whose job it is just to answer questions and engage with people. And I used to do that myself until maybe even just 6 months ago. I literally, people don't know this. I think it's kind of funny, like, because we're a bigger brand now, we're a bigger company, but I was so personal with that touch that until we got to the point where I just couldn't manage the scale, the CEO, I was literally going in as the founder and CEO, and replying to hundreds of Facebook comments every week and Instagram comments, and basically engaging with people on this very one-to-one level and answering questions in a way that, frankly, no one else in my company can answer in that very like sort of on brand and personal way. But now I have a team of people to help me with it, but it's been wonderful for me because it helps me understand our customers so deeply.
I completely agree. People ask me all the time, how did I grow on social media and how did I found a company that has this voracious following? And it's because for more than 3 years, I answered every Facebook message, every Instagram message. Still to this day, if you send me a message on Instagram, you are speaking directly to me. There is no middleman. And
that's the best.
It is the best. And it makes people know that there is an actual live person on the other side. I remember when our Facebook account representative was saying, like, you need to set up all these autoresponders and all these bots to talk to your people. And I was just like, no. And you can see straight through it. You can see straight through it.
It's the modern day equivalent of like robo voice. Like when you call a company, it's like, for please listen carefully as our options have changed recently. It's like, no, your options haven't changed recently. You just want me to listen to the right choice to guide me through the talkatone. Like, and that's the same thing where it's like the bots, like the automated messages. I think we did have an automated message for a while that was like, hey, hang tight and we'll be right with you. Have a nice day or morning or evening or whatever. Automated messages are weird. Sorry. Like, kind of like breaking the fourth wall a little bit. And that's the only time we've ever done something like that was when we just get a high volume of stuff and we just have to let people know, hey, hang tight. But we don't even, when you email a company and you get an email back that's like, we're working on your request. Like, we'll be in touch with you. No, it's just, we don't even do that. We're just like, we email people back when we are answering them. We're not spamming their inbox with like, please reply above the fold, or please press this button to rate your interaction. Like, no, like just question asked, question answered. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. People want to know.
It's not hard. It's just expensive. That's all, expensive in time and expensive in money. And that's why companies don't do it.
I'll tell you though, I have been having problems with my email marketing software. So the software that I use to send out emails, which, by the way, if you ever want to start an email marketing company, there's a huge space for it because they all suck.
They all suck in different ways. Yeah.
They all suck in different ways. And so like I've used the really, really, really expensive options. No, I've used the less expensive options. And yesterday my copywriter is like, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. And it's like, even though we have an account representative who is in charge of taking care of my account and ensuring it's 4 days before you get a response. And it's like, hey guys, if my emails aren't working, this is a
core part of my business. Yeah.
It's a core part of my business. And like last week, they just turned off our account because they were like, we're concerned that you may be in violation of all the rules and regulations that go into emails. And we had to take a step back and like defend ourselves and be like, no, here's exactly where consumers can do this when they engage with their emails.
I'm paying you for this service. Like, don't give me some warning before you shut it off. That's actually one of my frustrations with doing business with Amazon is, and I like those people for the most part, but they basically will, shut your account off like that. If they think that you're violating something, they won't call you. It'll just be off.
Oh, they canceled my Amazon influencers account with no warning, nothing, because they said that I had a blog post that was spreading misinformation about coronavirus. And I was like, guys, it is not misinformation to say that vitamin C is critical for the function of an immune system. Like, and at first I was like, okay, I'm going to appeal. I'm going to and then I was like, forget it. I'll just boycott. I don't need it. I'll do this some other way. I'll find a smaller company that does the same stuff and we're going to be okay. Like It is really frustrating, but hey, after this, I have a friend who sells millions and millions of dollars worth of goods on Amazon, and he showed me the easiest way to get someone on the phone at Amazon, and it's like miraculous if you're
Yeah, share.
trying.
Yeah, you gotta share it with me. But yeah, no, I mean, we're on Amazon Launchpad, which is a really cool spot for like younger, like startup companies, and so they actually do a really good job because they're a more personal basis. It's more like the teams that you're talking about, where they'll find like something they think is a glitch, or they think is like, oh, like we had people committing fraud on our sheets saying that they had our sheets, and then Amazon, and we kept sending them cease and desist letters and like telling them to stop misrepresenting that they're affiliated with the company, and then Amazon shut down our account because they were like, we've gotten several reports of fraud on your people buying your sheets, and it's like they're not like, you can see the seller that they're buying it from, and that it's not our account, so why are you doing this? But it's also people doing jobs and looking for work, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just small business problems. And I think another problem that small business owners have is being able to really take care of their employees. And this has led you to conclude that small business owners in general should be in favor of single payer healthcare, which is something I'm in favor of as well, because having lived in Europe and seeing that when you have you've seen it firsthand, and it's like, okay, guys, if we have single payer healthcare, we have no choice other than to focus on prevention. We must focus on preventative healthcare. So what brought you to the conclusion that single payer healthcare was a win for America in general, as well as in small businesses?
I think there are two questions there. Like in terms of like, I go on a talk all day about why it's good for America, right? Like there's a million and one reasons why, in my opinion. And from a broad level, to just break it down, there's like three components of a healthcare system in America, right? There's the patient, the insurance provider, and the doctor. And right now the patient is effectively paying to employ the insurance provider and the doctor.
Oh, and the pharmacy benefits manager.
Well, of course. I'll put provider as the third party, right? I'll put provider as the, whatever service or good is being provided. So the patient's paying the insurer and the provider. And so it seems pretty clear to me that if you just, take out one of the two pieces, then overall the cost of our healthcare system will go down by approximately the revenue of that piece that you're removing. And doctors will not have to deal with insurance companies. And we already have the infrastructure in place when it comes to Medicare to just expand that to everybody under the age of 65 as well. And there's a lot of reasons. I mean, you can go into the fact that I think it's 40 to 50% of bankruptcies are medical bankruptcies in the United States. I had a friend who went into the hospital, had a premature baby, and came out with an $80,000 bill. I don't really want to live in a society like that. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that that's anything that we should be, considering as a fair and just society. And so there's a lot of different things like that, and on the macro level, on the micro level, and where I think is most interesting as someone who grew up, and this is maybe getting a little bit too much in the politics, but I grew up very conservative, and I grew up. I'm a free market capitalist. The way I introduce myself when I lobby for causes at this Colorado State Capitol is, I'm a free market capitalist, I'm a millennial, I'm a progressive, and I'm a CEO. And I don't think that any of those things are mutually exclusive. And, the thing that really drives me crazy is that people don't look at healthcare in the United States for what it actually is, which is a system to keep people trapped in jobs that they hate. And so what ends up happening is, because we don't have single payer healthcare and we don't have a safety net when it comes to healthcare, you have employees who stay in jobs they hate. So for example, they might be working for a company like Microsoft or Amazon or Boeing or Nordstrom or Starbucks or any one of those wonderful companies in Seattle that I just named 5 in Seattle. And they might have incredible knowledge or expertise about a specific industry. And they might be able to go off and start a brand new company that innovates and beats out Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook or Google on any specific part of their business and change the world in a very positive way. Instead, they have a 3-year-old at home. And they know that if they leave that company, let's say it's Google, they're leaving the best healthcare available in the United States on the table, and they may never get it back. And so the frustrating thing for me is that we're a less entrepreneurial society than we could be. And as a person who's a big fan of free market capitalism and competitive marketplaces, we have an anti-competitive labor market because the supply of labor is not as freely moving as it should be. And so as a very personal example, I wanted to hire somebody from Google to be my chief marketing officer. I worked my ass off to get to the point where I could offer him $150,000 a year salary. I could offer him equity in the company, meaningful equity in the company. And then I could offer him basic startup healthcare benefits, like decent premiums, decent deductibles, but nothing blow away. And he and his wife were considering having their first child. And he basically told me, I would love to join Sheets and Giggles. I would love to join your company. And I would love to, dude, you were one of my favorite people, and we would work well together and we do big things together. But even if I work on the company for 3 years and I have a kid in a year and the company explodes in 3 years or goes out of business or whatever happens, now my 2-year-old doesn't have a good healthcare plan and I'm leaving all these benefits of Google on the table. And the problem is there would be some people who would say, well, hey, that is a competitive marketplace. Google is out competing you. I can't outcompete Google on healthcare. I have no healthcare options. I'm a small business. I have very few employees in order to get any leverage on these insurance companies or these brokers to offer anything other than very basic plans. And so basically, the long story short is that it would be really tremendous for generally people, employees, right? Because most people are not founders or CEOs or business owners, because they would be able to freely move around jobs without worrying about healthcare. And companies would have to compete by raising salaries, bonuses, and other creative ways to make people happier that work and stay at work and retain talent instead of just, you have healthcare because you continue to work here, which is like the worst benefit ever. And then the other pieces for small business owners, it would actually allow us to attract and retain talent in a much better way from Amazon, from Google, from these larger companies who have figured out that these benefits are actually an artificial barrier to people leaving their company and taking that expertise to small businesses who would be competing against them. So that's generally why I'm in favor of single payer healthcare. I think it would make us a freer, more entrepreneurial society. And I think that that's a really wonderful thing for all of us when you look at it on a macro level.
Two things come to mind. First, I love that you say that my views on politics are not mutually exclusive, because as we've seen in the past 5 years, especially, but over the past 15 years, our politics have gotten further and further and further apart. The left has moved way farther to the left and the right has moved way farther to the right. And I talk to people about it as well. I'm like, listen, you can want free market capitalism while also recognizing that we're one of the very few industrialized nations in the world that doesn't provide healthcare. Healthcare,
it's crazy.
It can be viewed as
a right for being a human being.
It's a human right.
And the irony is that, I also grew up very Catholic and, treating people the way you want to be treated and taking care of your neighbors. And, the most, and I don't mean to say this as an offensive way, but the most religious people I know are the ones who are most against giving healthcare to their neighbors. And I think it's kind of a sad irony. But the thing with me is like, that's not a absolutist statement. That's just something that I've noticed in my own family. And for me, I think that the polarization is very frustrating because it's just continual anchoring, right? And it's just people just keep anchoring you farther and farther right. So this becomes more palatable instead of this. And then they want to anchor you farther and farther left. So this becomes more palatable instead of this. And I really like people that are more solutions oriented and that are more goal based. And so, if I come to you with a problem and I say, hey, 43% of bankruptcies in the United States are medical bankruptcies. Should people be going bankrupt and ruining entire families? 500,000 families a year in the United States going bankrupt because somebody got cancer, or they couldn't afford their insulin, or they had a premature baby, or they got hit by a truck, or like there's a million and one things that can happen to any of us at any point in time that could ruin us. Mm-hmm. And that is not a free society. That is a very trapped society. It's a very scared society. And I think that when I talk to my friends who are in Canada, or my friends who live in Germany, and my friends who live in London, or my friends who live in Australia, they're blown away. They cannot believe that, you can go bankrupt because you get sick.
Right.
And I think that those two things should really be decoupled. And I think it's also a very old fashioned notion to say that, healthcare coming from your employer, like, I'll put it in terms that I think is like a very visceral thing for people is like, I judge my team based on how good they are at selling sheets on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Why should how good you are at selling sheets on the internet have any correlation to the level and access of healthcare that your child has?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Somebody explain it to me. Like why is your company having a bad Q3 and needing to lay you off because maybe some other department completely effed up have anything to do with your family's access to healthcare? Like, there's no correlation there. And so that to me is I think the way I think about it philosophically as well is I don't want to judge people on their work product and then all of a sudden cost some 10-year-old kid their next doctor visit. Like, that's insane. And then also from just a logical, reasonable perspective, I was 27 years old when I started my company. I'm 30 years old now. I've never been required to have any formal training on picking healthcare. I've never been required by anyone to have any education on which insurance policy I should pick for my different employees. I'm not really supposed to ask my employees what healthcare they need because that's a privacy violation.
Right.
And I got people 40 years age difference, different genders, some have families, some are single, some are not. And in America, because I founded a funny company based off of a pun, I get to choose people's healthcare. Dumb. It's crazy.
The other thing that I think people don't recognize as a small business owner when it comes to providing healthcare and insurance, it's also anti-feminist. It is so much more expensive.
What do I know?
Yes. It's so much more expensive to insure a female versus a male, and even workers' compensation insurance and like all the other like protections that we give to our employees.
Long-term disability insurance, short-term disability insurance, like life insurance. Yeah, there's the bottom line is that small business owners are not equipped to make these decisions. Like, we're not, like, I sell sheets. That's what I'm good at. I'm extremely good at making people laugh, doing good things in the world, and making sure that my business P&L makes sense. Like, that's what I'm very good at. Yeah. And what I'm not very good at is navigating the insurance plans between Anthem or this other company, and then having this broker tell me like, you should do this and then that. And it's just it's really broken windows economics, if people are familiar with the term, where basically, people always say, oh, what about all the people that work in the insurance industry? It's like, well, they're, bloodsuckers and shouldn't have a job. Like, that's I say that's pretty harshly, but like, it's more of like, I could hire people to go around all day in my neighborhood and break windows and then put them back in. And that wouldn't be creative. It wouldn't be productive, but it would certainly employ people. And so you can employ people all day long to work in insurance companies and deny people's cancer claims. But how is that a productive member of society? And so that's, I know that people who work in insurance companies do a lot more things as a function of their job that are positive. But it's not something that I think we should continue to tolerate. And I think that the only reason we do is because we're continually sold a bill of lies. And the funny thing is, everybody agrees that our campaign finance system is completely broken. I think something like 84% of Americans agree that money has too much influence in politics, which is really, you can't get 84% of Americans to agree on the sky is blue. And in some places the sky is orange right now. And I think that the ironic thing is that they know that there's a problem with the corruption and with campaign finance, but yet when it comes to the third and fourth order effects of that, where it's like, okay, well, we have these massive multi-billion-dollar insurance companies, massive multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies, massive multi-billion-dollar hospital systems that are mostly private equity owned and hedge fund owned. And in America, our hospitals are like 70% PE and hedge fund owned. They don't put that together to say, man, maybe what I'm hearing about single payer healthcare in other countries, like wait times in Canada, or that's one of the big myths, right? Or,
well, yeah, Americans, we want everything now.
And it's just something that I think that people, they know that there's a problem with campaign finance, corruption, and money in politics, but the third and fourth order effects are that we get sold a bill of lies in other countries' healthcare systems all the time because of the multi-$100 billion interests that are actually controlling that messaging. And I mean, I don't begrudge them from a corporate perspective. Like, if and the same goes for like, and I can go on politics all day. Same goes for like ISPs, right? Internet service providers. Comcast owns MSNBC. AT&T owns CNN. Disney, who's more of a media company, owns ABC. And when you have, Disney's market capitalization, $200 billion, AT&T's market capitalization, $300 billion, Comcast market capitalization, $200 billion. These are little fiefdoms. That's $1 trillion of market capitalization right there. And they own the three largest media companies on the left, right? And so when people are watching the news, they're getting Comcast on MSNBC, they're getting AT&T on CNN, and they're getting Disney on ABC, and on Fox they're getting News Corp, which is a whole nother problem and discussion. But like they're getting these like sort of almost PR mouthpieces from these massive conglomerates that are controlling the news. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. It's just, if I had access to that level of PR, I would be a fool not to use it for my business interest. And so, Comcast, you'll never see anything on MSNBC or CNN about net neutrality, or about any other issues that impact ISPs, or about anything regarding antitrust laws or monopolies or breaking up large corporations. You'll never see anything like that on those networks, and it's because it's dangerous to their bottom line.
Well, and another thing that is remarkable in the United States is the direct-to-consumer advertising for medications, which is still insane to me as a pharmacist, that I can be sitting there watching TV and all of a sudden I think, well, maybe I do need that drug. Maybe I should ask my doctor about that. Maybe I should do this. We're one of only 2 nations in the world that allows direct-to-consumer advertising for medications. And it has led to physicians feeling pressure to prescribe certain medications, even if the patient doesn't meet the criteria to need that medication. We saw it with Herceptin, was a really, really great example of it. Woman gets diagnosed with breast cancer. She sees an ad on TV for Herceptin. Herceptin only works for BRCA positive breast cancers. And yet she goes to the doctor and she's like, well, it said on TV, it said on TV that this helps people with breast cancer. Well, you don't have that kind of breast cancer. I still want the drug. And so now you're talking about a patient getting a $50,000 drug that is going to do nothing but cause side effects. It's really broken. And I think that so many people get so scared of moving into a socialism.
It's a change, or people don't like change, right? Like, and even, even I'm a big old lefty, right? I think people can realize that by now. What I'm talking about, even, Joe Biden's out there, crapping all over single payer healthcare. Why? And I don't want to kneecap Joe Biden because, but like, it's because his campaign donors won't allow it. He's, and he can say all he wants just because he wants to build on the Obama legacy and, build up the Affordable Care Act. And I agree with all those things and those goals, but like the real reason why he's not very gung-ho on single payer is not because, I hate this thing, 150 million people will lose their insurance if you go to single payer. No, it's like, that's like saying, like, if I take a $10 bill from 150 million people and I give them a 20, 150 million people will lose that $10 bill if you give them a 20. Like, it's like, it's the dumbest type of reasoning, but they do it because I think it works for a lot of people. Like I've heard that from a lot of people where they're like, oh, I don't want to lose my job's health insurance. It's really good health insurance. And it's like, I mean, first off, you don't have that health insurance. That's not yours. That's your employer's. It can be taken away at any given point in time. You can be fired for no reason if you live in an at-will state. And you can also have a bad quarter of your company and lose your health insurance. That's the thing I think that people don't get, is that their insurance there is not theirs. Mm-hmm. It's their employer's. And single payer healthcare, Medicare, for people over 65 is theirs. Mm-hmm. They own it. They can never be taken away unless they change the laws, which would cause an enormous uproar. So they won't do it.
Right.
And so that's the thing that I think people maybe misunderstand, is like what's theirs versus what's not theirs. And I really encourage people to put more pressure on their politicians in terms of asking the hard questions about like who's donating to their campaigns, how much they've been getting from pharmaceutical companies, how much they're getting from hedge funds who own these hospitals, how much they're getting from the insurance providers. I mean, like I always say, if I could start a business all over again, be an insurance company, because you get paid to provide a product that you don't make, or that you have no hand in creating. And it's like, how do I go see my doctor? Well, you have to pay us, but you're not my doctor. You've got to pay us, and then maybe we'll pay them. Am I paying them a different fee? Am I paying them something else? You don't know. The pricing is completely esoteric by design. And so like that's the, the whole industry is completely on its head in this country. And I think it all stems back to that root cause of campaign finance corruption, which is why I'm a major supporter of any politicians who don't take any corporate money. And it's funny because as a company, we are very politically active, and we kind of do it under the radar. We're not really like shout from the rooftops about what we do too much, but it's a little ironic because we are like an active corporate social responsible company. But I can't stand it when corporations buy politicians. And so I guess I'm sort of playing if you can't beat them, join them game, because I'm a little concerned that we're not going to be able to beat them. So
well, and I think something else that people don't consider is when you go to a physician and they write you a prescription, you have no idea what that prescription is going to cost you. None. And my insurance, depending on who my pharmacy benefits manager is and if I've wheeled and dealed.
In network or out of network?
Are you in network, out of network? Is this a preferred drug or a not preferred drug? And your physician doesn't know what your medication costs until your pharmacist actually puts it in and runs your insurance numbers. You have absolutely no idea what things are going to cost. And another huge problem that we have with media and the presentation of healthcare is you look at a drug like remdesivir, which we see everybody on the news is like, this drug is going to save lives from people from dying from coronavirus. My pharmacist friends and I were losing our minds. Like, does Dr. Fauci know that he's actually lying to people and that neither one of his studies that he's citing reached statistical significance? And this is a $30,000 drug that does not reduce the risk of death and actually just shortens the duration of symptoms by a few hours. It's a lie, friends. And if you don't know how to look at medical research, you shouldn't be out there saying like, I've got to have this drug remdesivir. I've got to have it. I've got to have it. It doesn't work. And it's very frustrating as a pharmacist to see how healthcare information gets presented in the news.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head when you're talking about how much that drug costs, because I think that people, they're like, and this is what kind of leads to this sort of like reactionary sort of politics where everybody is very angry and frustrated, but they don't really know necessarily like where to direct the ire. Directed at the corporations that are donating to these politicians, because when you talk about a drug that may or may not be effective in why they're pushing it out or rolling it out, and it could be for coronavirus, it could be for anything, people, I feel like that mistrust is there because people know intrinsically that a for-profit healthcare system is not for their own benefit. It's for profit.
Right.
It's not for the patient's benefit. It's not for the doctor's benefit. And it's not for curing or preventing sickness. It's strictly for profit.
For-profit healthcare is there to keep people fat, sick, and nearly dead. That is what for-profit healthcare is. You want people just sick enough, but not dead, but definitely not healthy.
You want perpetually in the system, And we spend in this country $3.8 trillion a year on our healthcare, and that is as a function of our GDP about 18%, and that is more than twice the average GDP percentage expenditure of the OEDIC countries, which are England, the UK, Norway, Germany, France, Australia, and like so. This is the type of thing that I try to tell people, but that stuff is a little hard to grok as well in terms of what should the percentage be or not. I think another really compelling argument for single payer healthcare, or even just really tight government pricing control and profit control over healthcare, is we do the same thing right now for other what are called inelastic goods. So, for example, electricity, heavily price controlled; water, heavily price controlled; housing, price controlled; food, subsidized and price controlled. Like the amount of subsidies we give to farmers is out of control.
Oh, and diesel, the amount of subsidies that we give to diesel.
Of course, oil and gasoline, of course. And so people get all up in arms about socialism or government intervention or whatever it is. And it's a little frustrating for me on the healthcare side because we already do it for electricity, water, food, and oil and housing. But we don't do it for healthcare. And the thing about healthcare is that it's a highly localized, inelastic good with very limited providers of that good. And so basically, if you have you have cancer, you need an open heart surgery, whatever it is, and they say, hey, this is going to cost you $500,000. What do you think? What's the alternative? There is no alternative. And that's called an inelastic good, when you have to purchase it no matter what the price is.
Right.
And so we already do tons of government controls and tons of government regulations for the other inelastic goods in our marketplace. But this is one that kind of, because of the way that healthcare has evolved, to where it didn't used to be as advanced as it is now, and it kind of became this more, you can even look at the expenditure in terms of the amount of money we spend on healthcare. In the last few decades, it's really skyrocketed. And because of that, it's kind of flown under the radar as this good that really needs to be heavily price controlled, if not government provided and subsidized, just like electricity, water, and food. And so those are, I can talk about this all day long. I love that this is I talk about bed sheets too often. This is the stuff that I love.
Well, I want to launch into like my next point, but I'm like, okay, we're going to have a 3-hour long podcast.
We can do a seamless segue. I mean, you can go, yeah, it's whatever you like.
Well, before I let you go, are you ready for some lightning round questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What is your number one strength?
My ability to context switch, I guess I would say, is my number one strength. Just, going from marketing to ops to recruiting to finance to writing copy to jumping back into, doing a photo shoot. It's just being a CEO or being a founder. It's that frenetic context switching that really keeps me going, and a lot of people can't handle it. And it's also a lot of people don't want it. Second best strength is probably my biceps. So
I love it.
Third best is my comedy chops. So yeah.
What is the thing that you struggle with the most?
Struggle with the most is definitely time management. I'm a monster with time management. I can't stand it. I got fired from my first job in 5 months, which was literally calendaring and time management for this head honcho at a hedge fund. And I ruined that guy's calendar, probably ruined his life for 5 months. And so my team, they get so frustrated with me, God bless them, because I'm late to every meeting. I'm generally I'll miss meetings sometimes. I'll just forget that I have them. I will show up. I see it's cost me. I'm laughing about it, but yeah, that's been my biggest weakness for sure. It's cost me relationships, and it's something that I really need to work on, and I have worked on. I just haven't been able to crack that nut.
Yeah. Last but not least, what are you most grateful for right now?
Oh, I'm so grateful for just my health and the health of my family. I mean, I think that when you look at this year specifically, I'm extremely grateful that we're in a position to help instead of a position to potentially struggle. And what I mean by that is, we've, as a company, Sheets and Giggles has donated $40,000 to Colorado's COVID-19 emergency relief fund, which I think almost matched the Denver Broncos contribution.
Step it up, Broncos. Come on.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I love the Go Broncos, but so we've donated tens of thousands of dollars of sheets to homeless shelters to isolate symptomatic individuals in these motel rooms they built to avoid spread to the general population. We've planted tens of thousands of trees this year, which the wildfires have been out of control. And so we plant a tree for every order that we receive, and mostly in California and Colorado, and also in the Pacific Northwest where the fires are all raging right now. And so we've planted tens of thousands of trees this year in areas that need reforestation after wildfires. And so, the gratefulness just comes from, and the gratitude just comes from my team and how hard they work and put this company in a position to do good as a function of being successful. And I think that that's all you can really ask for, is to do good and have fun at the same time, and have success along the way.
Do good and have fun. I love that.
What do you want out of life, man?
I know. Colin McIntosh, thank you so much for being on the Lindsey Elmore Show.
Linz, it was great to be here. I hope you don't mind that I call you Linz. I feel like we're good friends.
Oh, we're besties for life now.
Yeah, I gotta get you some sheets. So
I totally need some sheets because I too like things that are awesome in bed.
Love it. I started a company just so I could put this on a t-shirt. All right, great. Thanks so much, Lindsey. I appreciate you.
Waking up on your period with dirty, stained sheets is no fun. But neither is the advice about how to avoid staining your sheets. Women have been told for years, just wear pajama trousers or an extra pair of panties, or maybe sleep on an old hand towel and be sure that you get your mattress protected. Yikes. None of that sounds really fun. And the fact of the matter is that getting good sleep and clean sheets while you're on your period should not be hard. That's why I am a huge fan of the new Thinxx sleep shorts. They are comfy, boxer-inspired pajama shorts that are built in with a pair of super absorbent panties that will absorb up to 4 tampons worth of menstrual flow. Best of all, they look really cute, they're super comfortable, and they have pockets built right in. Grab your pair of sleep shorts, a cycle set, or perhaps even a postpartum set by heading to www.shethinx.com/Lindsey Elmore. That's www.shethinx.com/Lindsey Elmore, LINDSEYELMORE. Get the Thinxx. They are life-changing. Over the past decade, politics has become increasingly more polarized, with the people who lean towards the right leaning way further right, and people who lean towards the left leaning way further left. We also know that on social media, it gets very easy to get into arguments and debates with people because there's that facelessness. And we know that the algorithms on social media, once they put you into a box, they just keep pushing you down that rabbit hole of like, well, you believed this one conservative thing, so you must be conservative on all issues, or you engaged with this one very liberal post, so you must be liberal on everything. And I loved what Colin said in our interview today, is that you can have opinions on both sides of the aisle. We don't have to all force ourselves to fit into one box or the other. So this year is an especially important time because we are in the midst of an election, and this is an extremely important time for us to remember that we need to be civil even about politics, and even when we dramatically disagree with someone else, because ultimately we all want basically the same things. We want to know that we live in a country where we feel safe. We want to know that our children will have greater opportunities than what we had. We want our parents taken care of as they get older. I think that we have way more in common than we actually think we do. That's my first piece of advice. Focus on what you actually have in common with someone else. Because if you start a political discussion with everything that you disagree on, it's very hard to come back to the things that you do agree on. So if you're in the midst of a heated debate, find something that you agree with the other person on. Here's some other tips for discussing politics with people who disagree with your political views. Number one, consider the time and place. You may find that you disagree with politics at someone at work. It's not really the time to discuss it. If you are on a very heated Facebook thread, don't engage with it. Just don't. It's not worth your stress. Because here's the thing. Social media is not designed to convince someone who disagrees with you about anything. Look at the mask discussion that is happening all throughout the country right now. If you are a person who believes that masks are the absolute best solution to help reduce the spread of coronavirus, you are not going to be able to convince someone who thinks that masks are worthless. And vice versa. If you think masks are worthless, you are not going to convince that person who says that no, masks are incredibly meaningful and we need to be wearing them. Just let it go. Let it go. It's not worth your stress. It's also not a great time to discuss politics if you're feeling angry or if you're feeling upset, or if this is someone who you have never gotten along with. Why bother? Why bother? Just let it go. The next thing is you need to speak in the receiver's language and understand that you are not setting out to tell somebody that they're wrong. Because remember, they're not wrong. They're just not you. And so you need to be aware that, research shows that people prefer to deny new information if it challenges their long-held beliefs or their worldview. That's critically important as well. So if someone was raised in an environment where they felt marginalized, you're not going to present them with new information that's like, look, studies now show that marginalization doesn't exist anymore, because it's challenging the very core essence of the worldview that they have. So just don't try to prove someone wrong, because the more that you put information on top of it, the more that person goes back and says, well, this is my long-held belief. This is where I've been this whole time. The other thing is you actually need to listen to the other person. So if you're listening to a political debate and you are in the habit of listening simply to respond, so you're listening to tell that person the next thing that is your point, you're not listening to them. And if you're not listening to them, then you need to not have any expectations of changing your friends' opinions or challenging yourself to push through the discomfort of listening to opinions that you disagree with. Get over yourself, or just don't talk politics. If you don't want to go in those directions, then don't talk politics. Be aware of your body language and your tone. If your tone is becoming aggressive, stop. If you are laughing at them or scoffing at them or throwing your hands up in frustration, or if you're leaning back in your chair, just being like, oh, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let it go. Let it go. Or don't talk politics. So your tone needs to be one. You need to seek to understand the other person. Why do they have these beliefs? Where do these beliefs originate from? How do they process the world around them? And that's very, very important. You can also just take a step back. If you are in the midst of a heated political discussion and you feel overwhelmed or that you're not being heard, whatever it is, walk away, breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your nose, and do that 5 times and repeat these steps until your blood pressure comes back to normal and to where your breathing returns to normal. And then here's the thing. If you really want to be politically active and you want people to take action, then try instead of debating about, oh, you should vote for this person or you should vote for that person, remind your friends to register to vote. Donate to charities that you really care about, that you think are making differences in the world. You can always head over and sign a petition over at change.org. Write letters to your senators and your representatives, and then only choose to talk politics with people who reciprocate the respect that you are offering. That is a way that we can inject some more civility into our political discussions, because goodness knows, we need to understand each other and we need the country to be united. We are the United States of America. And if we lose that unity, we've lost the very essence of our country. Another thing about talking politics with people is remember, just because you disagree with someone does not mean that you have to hate them, does not mean that you have to disrespect them. You simply disagree, and that's okay. Be kind, even in situations of contention, and get out there and go vote for the world that you want to see around us. The Lindsey Elmore Show is written and produced by me, Lindsey Elmore. Show segments are produced by Sue Procco and Kelsey Lorman. Production design, sound design, and editing is by Jive Media. If you have a question about this or any other episode of the podcast, send us an email to hello@lindseyelmoreshow.com. And hey, since you're still here, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And while you're at it, go over and follow us on Instagram @Lindsey Elmore Show. This helps us bring the pod to more people.